Alex Answer here. It is December 1st in the year 2018. So in this video, we're going to complete the mini-series on the Gospel of Judas. And I know there's some of you out there that may want to see me continue on with this to part 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I'm going to assure you that I will continue reading other spiritual texts in the future. So, by the way, if there is a recommendation, I believe that the Emerald tablets have been requested by at least one viewer. There may be some other requests to review other information. But on my channel, I like to break it up in between my free flow and commenting on world affairs, and also taking a look at the spiritual information that's been left behind. And I'm often noting, although I don't have all the answers, and I think that it's pretty dark to look in the direction of a particular area. But that particular area is the reality that today there are wars being waged in numerous countries, and the list continues to expand. And these countries have very unique histories. And so, we talk about movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark being a movie, but yet there is a real world attempt to control information, to covet information, to bury information. So, it's only been a few days that I've been aware of the Gospel of Judas, and it isn't really exactly life-changing, but what it is it's affirming. Other things are affirming, other clues, other synchronicities. And so we're going to start on page 106, and the subsection of this is called the view of Christ. Throughout this text, Jesus speaks of the 12 disciples and their God. It is clear that Jesus does not belong to the God of this world. One of his goals, in fact, is to reveal the inferiority of this God before returning to the divine realm, the perfect world of the Spirit, after leaving his mortal body. For this text, then, Jesus is not a normal human being. The first indication of this is that he, quote, appeared on earth. This already suggests that he came from another realm. And since he spends much of the gospel revealing the secret mystery about the immortal world of true divinity, the natural assumption is that this other realm is where he came from. His unique character is hinted at in the next comment about him. Quote, often he did not appear to his disciples as himself, but he was found among them as a child. Scholars who are familiar with a range of early Christian literature will have no trouble understanding this allusion. A number of Christian writings outside the New Testament portray Jesus as a, this is a new word for me, docetic, D-O-C-E-T-I-C, docetic being, that is, one who looked human only because it was an appearance. As a divine being, Jesus could take on whatever shape he wanted. In some early Christian writings, Jesus could appear as an old man or a child simultaneously to different people. And so for those that didn't see the other parts, the Gospel of Judas portrays a immortal Jesus that appeared on earth, who gave his secret teachings to Judas, who played a role with Jesus to turn Jesus over to the authorities so Jesus could return to the immortal realms. Okay, so that's the version of Jesus, and there's more to this that will differ from the New Testament. Okay, this knowledge is, of course, the main theme of the Gospel of Judas. It is the knowledge of the secret mysteries that Jesus alone has, and that Jesus, or Judas alone, is worthy to hear. Jesus has this knowledge because he comes from the realm of Barbelo, and he is apparently able to visit that realm at will. The day after his first conversation with the disciples, they want to know where he has gone in the meantime, and he tells them, quote, I went to another great and holy generation. They ask him about that generation. He laughs again, this time not at their ignorant worship of Creator, but their lack of knowledge about the realm of the truly divine. For no mere mortal can go there. There is a realm beyond this world, the realm of all protection, or rather perfection and truth, the ultimate destination of those who contain an element of the divine that can escape the trappings of this material world. Jesus alone knows this realm, for that is where he came from and where he will return. I'm going to scroll forward, skip forward. Okay, so there's no resurrection in the Gospel of Judas. This is perhaps the key point of all. Jesus will not be raised from the dead in this book. Why would he be? The entire point of salvation is to escape the material world. A resurrection of a dead corpse brings the person back into the world of the Creator. The point is to allow the soul to leave this world behind and to enter, quote, that great and holy generation that is the divine realm that transcends this world. A resurrection of the body is the very last thing that Jesus or any of his true followers would want. Views of salvation. Okay, this is the next subsection, and for viewers that haven't seen the other part, so we're not going through the gospel word for word. We're going through a very simple to understand breakdown by the authors of this book. Views of salvation. That, of course, is the goal of Jesus' true followers as well. This world and all its trappings are to be transcended. That can occur when the soul learns the truth of its origin and destination, and then escapes from the material prison of the body. Now, I'm doing a lot less free flow because I'm trying to get through this. But again, there's this theme of the fallen world, escaping the fallen world, and the body being programmed with things that ultimately we should rise above, and those philosophies making their way into how I have been describing this fallen world. This teaching became clear in a key conversation between Judas and Jesus, in which this generation, that is, the race of people here on earth, is contrasted with that generation, the realm of the divine beings. And I personally am convinced that future generations will absolutely understand the errors of man's and woman's ways in today's day and age. But the people alive today can't see it. And their egos won't allow certain levels of truth to override their political religions and other illusions of separation. The programming, the abuse of the fallen world and the false gods have damaged a lot of humans. There's a lot of humans out there that may actually think that they're religious. There's a lot of humans out there that may actually think they like to be like Jesus, or to follow in a particular way that could be described as spiritual. And yet they could actually be scoffing and laughing at spiritual concepts, which is hypocritical, but it's a part of the world that we're in, that a lot of things are not as they seem to be, especially with regards to Orthodox religions. So just a little bit of note for me, there seems to be the pattern of the masses and these religions. There is a responsibility of the masses to override the church, to override the thinking of the government, programming of the establishment, whatever, theocracy or monopoly or monarchy. It's really the responsibility of the humans alive, in my opinion, at this moment speaking, to keep alive certain traditions, certain truths, to keep them from being buried, or if they are buried, to be the ones that miraculously happen to be the ones to discover, in some cases, ancient writings and secret texts. So we've been noticing a pattern of this, from the Nag Hammadi to the Dead Sea Scrolls to this. Although there is, I believe, although I haven't read them yet, some people that question the Dead Sea Scrolls and their authenticity. But it's interesting that the Dead Sea Scrolls got more hype, I believe, in pop culture. I haven't read the Da Vinci Code material because I avoid some things that my tuition steers me away from. I just avoid it. I just avoid certain topics because I'm trying to cover them up. I'm not trying to cover up the Da Vinci Code. I'm just not drawn magnetically to certain things. Some things don't feel strongly as other things. And in a world where there's a lot of things competing for our attention, I'm going to go for those things that are pulling me in, and those bits of information that seem to be finding me. There's also going to be deceptions out there and deceptive people that may find us, even dark synchronicity. I've talked about that. So we need to work to have discernment, right? When you come across information, people, places, and things. But I'll say that in my own life, I've become a little bit more experienced, a lot more experienced at recognizing the synchronicities. And when there's a pattern, of looking for truth and looking for gnosis, for things literally popping out of the jack-in-the-box, if you will. And so I'll be extra attentive when I'm at the library or when I go to thrift stores. I'll be looking for information. The universe knows I'm looking for information. So that bookstore over there or the bookshelf, I incrementally add books at random every few months when I find them. And usually when they're cheaper than $5, usually at the thrift store or the library. And now I'm checking books out. And so I think that there is a lot of truth that's been spread by a lot of humans, and there's a lot of parallel. We live in a world that's so into hierarchy and top-down and pyramidal structural control and a world of presidents and monarchies and one ruler, one God type ideologies. And in a fallen world such as that, that's not a world that recognizes the divine emanations that may be manifesting within the generations. And I believe that a generation can be so corrupted, but there can still be babies that are born in future timelines or present timelines that can have the seed of consciousness that can shine the light on the secrets of their day and age because they have the soul to recognize, or the gnosis. And I think that's possible. I think that there is the cosmic wild card over those entities that want to control mankind. So is the activity of the sun. Now, I'm going to come back either tomorrow or in another video, and I'll be talking about a recent dream in which I saw the sun waking up again, and just a sense of knowing, a flash, just like a flash from the sun, of the things to come after that. We're moving into that point in time. We're already seeing signs of that. We're first, of course, going into a solar minimum, and that also brings shock waves of solar wind, of course, which is expected today, and another geomagnetic storm caused by a CME in just a few days. They're expecting a geomagnetic storm by December 5th. So start to pay attention to when the war machine picks up. And as things get more dangerous and controversial, again, with discussing the coming world war, I'll be covering other content and other ideas, other bits of information. Please support if you can at outsidethebox.vhx.tv. That is my platform outside of YouTube in response to the problems that we've been experiencing here. So I'm going to wrap things up here with the Gospel of Judas. I want to thank you for your patience. It's an honor to share this information. And again, if there's something that you would really like to see me take a look at, I'll consider it. Let me know in the comment section. Again, someone recommended the Emerald Tablets of Thoth or Toth. And I know that I was looking at a video partially from Leak Project last year on it. I need to look again at the Emerald Tablets. There may be some things that we can learn about the Archons, unseen forces. So let's go back to reading. Some people belong to this generation, some to that one. Those with the divine element within belong to that one. Only they can be saved when they die. When the others of this generation die, that will be the end of this story. As Jesus says, the souls of every human generation will die. When these people, those that belong to the realm above, however, have completed the time of the kingdom, and the spirit leaves them, their bodies will die, but their souls will be alive. They will be taken up. Like ascend? See, and I'm not opposed to the idea of us ascending. I think that the counterfeit card that was thrown in by the deceivers was telling humans that they would ascend out of the body in new circles and movements. That's where the deception was. The idea of the soul ascending beyond this world, I'm down with that. I'm down with that and interested in dedicating the rest of my life to studies that revolve around that, right? But the idea of us ascending out of this body because of a certain event, there's been sabotage, spiritual movements to direct people away from the true salvation and the true ascension and the true God and the true light, the true knowledge, the true wisdom, the true path of the soul. Because there is a place in this world to recognize what's fallen, to recognize the evil that's taking place, not just in the Middle East with these wars, but within our own nation. Sure, there's a time for pleasure. There's a time for smelling the roses. There's also a time for being aware of reality as it is and not partaking in the simple pleasures of the modern day debauchery, right? I've tasted of those fruits, and the aftertaste of the fruits is not great. It's not a great aftertaste. It's like I should be, doing some, parable right now about old wine and new wine or something like that. And the Gospel of St. Thomas, I'm going to be coming back to the Gospel of St. Thomas. We must make the inner like the outer like the inner. There are certain bits of wisdom that are hardcore and very applicable to today's world in the Gospel of St. Thomas. The Gnostic Gospels include Gospel of Mary, Philip, Thomas, Judas, as well as some other information, the hypostasis of the archons. So I have not read yet the Gospel of Mary or Philip. But I do believe that we are seeing obvious signs of the evil of this world, and that's what got me involved initially after 9/11, specifically around 2004, 2005. And in hindsight, I can see the post-2000s as a period in which the energy has been very supportive of the idea of truth-telling, alternative media, true spiritualism, trying to go outside the box of terms, but looking at things with a spiritual perspective, or looking at politics from a spiritual perspective. This is an arena that should expand. And today we have additional tools of gnosis. We have technology. We can look at spaceweather.com. We can see what's taking place in human society as there's a geomagnetic storm. Instead of being distracted by the manufactured news during a full moon, we can take the knowledge that's out there and start learning also about how others are being affected by the full moon. We just came out of one. And we can choose to, stay out of drama. I'm a couple months, by the way, after quitting Facebook, so I'm still in a process of experiencing what the difference is, what the outlook is, how the energy feels within my own body, not being on social media. And that includes being on YouTube, way less. And this is still something that's evolving. There are certain forms of discipline that I'm exercising now that I did not attempt in the past. Don't need to talk about it, right? Because it's ego-based, right? I know what I need to do to be a more disciplined individual and speaker of truth. And I know that I'm looking for things of a spiritual nature more so than, supposed photographs of another planet or something like that, or some other new theory about some other cloak and daggery. As long as the cloak and daggery, right, the skullduggery, as long as the conspiracy truth leads one to the greater conspiracy understanding, which is the cosmic conspiracy or the spiritual conspiracy of the souls that are in the prison planet, right? But if they don't ever end up at the ultimate destination where the conspiracy truths are meant to lead them, then what more are they, the people of today, especially those that read disinformation and phone to left-right paradigm? How different are they than the dog chases its tail? And what wrong is there in telling people politely without yelling that there is a lot of chasing of one's tail in the modern Homo sapien world, from the left to the right, and superseding, going beyond the United States or the West, right? It could be argued that the whole world is under a spell from the modern high technological Roman Empire. And it is seen to the forces of China. It is seen to the forces of Russia. It is seen to the forces of the United States. And my favorite alternative media deceiver that I love to reference was recently interviewing Jim Rogers on his channel. And as he held the mic and interviewed Jim Rogers, the strangest thing came out of his mouth with regards to the tensions between China and the United States. And he said, wouldn't it be great if the United States and China could just, get along together and take over the world together? And it really makes you wonder, like, what happened to some of these individuals in the last couple of years? Was it a microchip? Was it a spell? Was it a lot of money? Was it a lot of Bitcoin? What happened to some of these individuals that act like they're almost having a wet dream of the U.S.-China world order? And we'll just pause that thought and come back to it in another video. So maybe you understand why I find information like this relevant to introduce in the conversation of what type of a world is this, where there's a certain amount of our fellow brothers and sisters that seem to be so easily duped to worldly things. How is it possible? How is it possible? There might be an answer. And the answer might be in our straight up DNA, our biology, the world of matter, our bodies, that which is not perfect, but that which is easily manipulated. Let's go back. In this understanding, humans consist of a body, a spirit, and a soul. The body is the material part that clothes the inner soul, which is the real essence of the person. The spirit is the force that animates the body, giving it life. When the spirit leaves the body dies and ceases to exist. For those who belong only to this human realm, the soul then dies as well. As Jesus later says, it is impossible to sow seed on rock and harvest its fruit. In other words, without a spark of the divine within, there will be no ongoing life. But for those who belong to the realm above, the soul lives on after death and is taken up to the heavenly home. The idea is further explained after Jesus describes the myth of beginnings to Judas, who wants to know, does the human spirit die? Jesus explains that there are two kinds of human, those whose bodies have been given a spirit on a temporary basis by the archangel Michael, so they might offer service, and those who have eternal spirits granted them by the archangel Gabriel, who belongs, therefore, to the great generation with no ruler over it. These latter are those who have a spark of divine within them and who, after their death, will return to the realm where they came. Judas himself, of course, is among them. The other disciples, on the other hand, appear to be the first of its kind, or appear to be of the first kind, who had ignorance offer service, but who on their deaths simply cease to exist. I'm going to add something else. I think that there is spiritual gnosis in a lot of different spiritual religious teachings for those that have the eye to see and ears to hear, the ability ultimately to decipher, the wisdom to literally decode. Others, they're not going to be able to do that. They're going to be looking at, well, didn't the book say this? They won't let go. Well, does that book also have things to explain a little bit further about, I don't know, the unseen realms? So we look, for example, at Islam. And I'm not a Muslim, and there could be some questionable things in there, but there are other things in there where it's like, there's a lot of description of the jinn. And by the way, I talked about that in brief on a recent video on VHX. And so there is something to that, but we can also run up against the worship of the God of this world in other religions and ask ourselves, well, then does one have the ultimate truth? And I would say that I don't know that I believe that. I don't think that even when I was younger, in my early 20s and going through some hard times, I was never an alcoholic, right? But I flew into AA because I fell in other hard times and experienced other wild adventures, right? And I found myself rejecting their teachings and finding my own way, eventually off the grid, but even my own way when I lived in the city, just staying out of trouble after the brief trouble that I got into. Once I found activism and once I found information and sharing it, my life changed. People always thought that was weird that I went into a unorthodox path of cable access TV and later leaving Portland and YouTube full time. But it was my path, it was my spiritual expression, and it was something that others didn't understand, but Alexander himself, within his own soul, I understood. I understood what was missing in my life, right? And I understood the path that I needed to walk upon, and I needed to find my own path. Like they say, pull oneself up by their own bootstraps. But this is not a world in which we should be expecting others to validate our spiritual truth or our growth or progress. That may not be for other men and women to co-sign where we've grown, where we've overcome. I think it's something higher. And I have said that for years. I've alluded to it over the years that we should work to be an asset to the Creator more than impressing the people of this world. And although I was never raised by the people that brought me into this world to be religious, for those that don't know, I lived nearly my whole life with my single mother, and only a few years with my father. None of them really religious, but they have their views or lack of views, both unique views. And then I developed my own views and understanding. And 9/11, when that took place, realizing there was a deception, and then going a layer above, it was clear that there was something far more sinister at play. Some of us were also able to have that spiritual experience when we learned about implantable microchips. I remember staying up all night long in 2003 when I first heard about it from Clyde Lewis and was looking at Digital Angel and psychically or spiritually looking into the essence of what that represented or what that could be in the future, and kind of like tapping into that beast consciousness and going, whoa, this isn't good. This is New World Order. And you start to see like the signs and the pyramid, and even Freeman did a video on Columbia early on. To me, that stuff wasn't just like conspiracy mumbo jumbo. It's key that can activate and wake up a certain amount of the population that may have that divine spark, to where when they see those symbols and they see those types of deceptions, it could be a type of deception that could be played 2,000 years ago, or on 9/11, or in the years ahead, where a certain group is blamed for something, thus their world is destroyed forever. And there can literally be an event that's manufactured that is used for 100 years to bomb for 100 years in a particular region. Are we going to see that in Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, which isn't blamed for 9/11, but they're being bombed back to the Stone Age? 1 in 3 people that are dying are civilians. So I will come back with this thought. I will say to you now that the sacrifice to the false gods isn't just something that you read about in a parable of Jesus, talking to people going, what you guys are doing over here is wrong with you guys sacrificing on the altar. I will say to you now that the foreign policy of the United States and the Western world is sacrificing on the altar. There are people even psychologically thinking that the wars need to happen, or that people need to be going overseas, or the things that people did overseas was the right thing. So there is a lot of soldier worship, and that is tied in with the sacrificial, because millions have died that had nothing to do with 9/11. So in our actual world right now, right, there are forces of black magic that have control of our governmental processes. That's why the information is key, because as they have control over our system, they have control over our media, they have control over our media, military media, military, and the technologies that exist today have the ability to co-opt many souls and lead to darkness. Even if they're not actually going overseas, it's not just about the wars. There's plenty of darkness here in this country that can trap them. It's not that sex is bad, but lust can actually be directed to some primal dark places. And it lies within the cells of our ancestry. They know how to play that. They know how to push buttons. And they're doing that today. So it's our job to rise above the soul entrapment. So much of what I've talked to you for years, since my very first program, which was about 911. It's not on YouTube. There's plenty of hundreds of episodes that were never uploaded to YouTube that were straight up Portland, Oregon all the way. Earlier episodes, interviews with people that are still on DVDs, in boxes, in a place that I used to stay at, cabin in Estacada. Probably will never see that stuff again. It's all in the past. But was it worth it? Did it do some good for the Portland audience and the people that were witnessing that information at that time, bearing their witness to other perspectives about that day that got us into war? I would say the answer is yes. And someone could say, well, what good is any information about this stuff? How does it serve us? If someone wakes up to the fact that the world's fallen and that things like a common institution that's looked upon in a favorable light, like the military or something else, and you have people worshiping it and worshiping its misuse and looking away from its misuse and then acting like it's normal. So we go from the generation where you have the heroes, like World War II heroes and others, to a military by design that's been weakened and demonized. Does that sound good? To see that type of thing takes place? So there's like multiple levels of entrapment. You have a weakened military, a weakened economy, and a weakened inner collective moral of a society. When that takes place and evil runs amok, the good luck factor is diminished, right? So the field of energy can change around a person when their thoughts change. And so when the direction of a nation changes, like after 9/11, and the identity, the collective consciousness and identity is marked by a particular act that's repeated over and over and over. In our world, that would be the constant dispatching of soldiers and troops to overseas lands to fight a war that those controlling this government, they're not trying to win that war. That would be so much better if they just won the war, however they did it, right? In Afghanistan or Iraq 10 years ago. Just finished the job, took out the people that were responsible for the official story, and we can move on with our lives. We could have moved on with our lives. We could have moved on with our lives if the quote-unquote most powerful military in the world was dead set on eradicating the supposed alleged threat. And imagine if we were in that type of a world where it's like, oh, look at what happened. Well, let's do something about it. Well, glad we dealt with that. Let's move on. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again. So I bring that up to say that we live in a world now where the most basic truths about why we're at war is inverted. And there are entire generations that will never know the truth. And there are entire generations that will be told that if they look in the truth of certain directions, certain things could happen. But government aside, society will punish the truth speaker or the truth seeker. Truth speaker is a little bit more serious to society, where you don't just seek the truth, but you actually have the gall to speak it. Even more so if you take it to YouTube or your community on Access TV, where you can't hide behind a YouTube screen, where you will talk about things that your community may not like, and they will see you literally at Safeway. I've been there. And it's odd for the people that were busy cursing me on TV for the guy to walk in one day at a taco stand or a Mexican restaurant and be like, that's right, dude. Just saw me live 1 hour ago. That's the unique thing that I had a chance to experience in Portland, because I was doing cable access TV before YouTube. And what that does is link the true speaker directly with the audience and the people that don't want to hear that. And when you're doing it for free, or you're making very little money doing it, at that time in Portland, nothing came in, and there was no AdSense, and I was bussing tables all the time and renting rooms with roommates that I'd rather not live with. Through those early life experiences in Portland, I had my own notice. And I'm going to get back to reading here, but it's in those Portland years that I would have the visions of World War III and the missiles showering down on East Side and 12th. I would think more about the sun and the grid going down and a massive movement of people heading east. I would feel literally the evil from the past affecting the people of the present. And I prayed for many years to the true being, the true creator, even the entity goddess, if you will, of Portlandia, feeling that, Portland actually conceptualized a captured, wounded goddess, essentially being raped by mankind, the men and women, even if they think that they're spiritual, that are the dominating force, right? That drew first blood as it cleared the ancient forest and created their Dante's Inferno and the have and have not reality that makes up the modern Portlandia. So in that magical place, that fallen place, right? In the microcosm, I saw the macro. And these are Gnostic terms, from the micro to the macro. The idea of the fall of Sophia, before I read about that, again, I was talking about the idea of a captured goddess energy that seemed to make up Portland. But there really is no separation between one place and another, for example. So my microcosmic, picking up on Portland's fallen state, is just simply picking up on the earth, or that feminine captured earth spirit being devoured and driven upon and being, having things pumped out of it or pumped into it. And it's like there's a lot of people out there that act like they're environmentalists, but they're political environmentalists. They don't come across to me as people that are true holistic environmentalists that really feel what the earth is going through, and that includes the way the earth could be responding. And again, I think it's on purpose what they've been doing. Could be responding to the boom, boom, boom. I think about them bombing in specific places. Think about acupuncture points. When you think about these ancient places, Iraq, Afghanistan, other places, boom, boom, special places, acupuncture points. What are they really doing? And why do they seem hell-bent, the God of this world that seems to be in control of the governments of this world, on a massive depopulation in that region of the earth? Intuitively, I feel that by 2100, there is some sort of a goal that they have. The powers that be have some sort of a goal to cull the population overseas by 2100. And right now, we are in the middle of the social engineering phase, where society is taught to go along with something like that, or to feel that their tribe's survival is dependent on such a mega death type of event. And so over the course of the next coming decades, and whatnot, I think we are going to see a greater overt rise of evil and the spread of murder and war domestically. And so these are trying times, and these are times in which people should attempt to wear the armor of God, but to honestly, truly know God, especially if they've never really looked, and if they've just followed Scripture and religions and New Testaments for most of their life. And politicians. I mean, it makes sense for someone to follow the New Testament and to be part of the left-right paradigm. It makes sense. That's in the box. That's what many people are. But unfortunately, people can think in their mind, well, I can just say I'm Christian and give my life over to Jesus, but I can also be a part of a murderous system, but that's not going to touch my soul. And I think that we need to reach out to those people and let them know, you may be making an assumption that you may not afford to be able to make. When one gambles with one's soul and the soul's destiny, the question is, can one afford to make a bad decision just because they're angry? Just because of what InfoWars is showing you? Just because of what's being manufactured down south or elsewhere? It doesn't mean then we should allow dark forces that can manufacture events in the physical plane, problem, reaction, and solution, to dupe us into a seething type of vibrational agri frequency. But I feel that millions right now are. They're under a spell. There's a new spell coming. There's a new thought form coming. And it's still right on the coattails of the previous thought form, but it is growing. And it will continue to grow. The evil will continue to grow between now and the next decade. And so this is a great time. Take a pause during the quiet before the storm and talk about the real nature of this world. So there's a lot of emphasis on the worship of the God of this world. That seems to be the primary area of analysis and discussion. Okay. I'm just going to read a little bit more and then we'll close. Hope you all have a wonderful Saturday night, whether you're going to go out drinking, whoring, or whatever else the pleasures of this world may guide you to. I certainly don't think that people need to strive to be perfect. You know, we are physical beings. And energy is energy. Money is energy. Sexuality is energy. Other forms are energy. Giving attention to something. Promoting. You know, the media does a lot of promoting. But one of the things that I notice about the things that are seen the most, promoted the most, talked about the most, the things that are trending, unless, of course, like on YouTube, where they manufacture what's trending, so they make sure the truth isn't there. So you look at what's trending, you're like, oh, come on, give me a break. Somebody picked all this that works at YouTube. But when you look at, you know, seriously, but when you look at the things that people are interested in, or the people that people talk about, whoever, whether like, you know, just, you know, people at the local bar that you may know, or it could be on certain alternative media programs, the mainstream media, or on a Facebook page, a criminal watch group. Well, that's basically what it is. People are looking out for other people to speak about negatively, to say, hey, that's the bad man. Just like Scarface. Al Pacino saying, you know, you need somebody like me. So you can go, there goes the bad man. And a lot of people out there, groupthink, the hive mind, the collective consensus reality, loves to have the bad man. You know, Trump plays that role for the complacent left that allowed the bombings to continue under Obama, right? They were no longer into like anti-war, they're more into, oh, he's got the greatest body. Na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na. I wonder, wow, he's got the greatest body. And I mean, that was what it was. You know, Obama coming out of the water, dripping with water, Mr. Sexy Man. You know, that's some rancid water there. The Willamette Week is straight up toxic. You'd have to be an alien created out of a lab to be cool coming out of that water. I've seen my fair share of idol worship. I was shocked at 28 to see that worship of his election. Okay, because I knew it was fraudulent. When I saw this stuff repeating again in 2016, people going, well, if you're not with us and you're with the other side, I'm like, oh my God, this is not a sign of hope for people to be able to, you know, develop communities and work outside the dollar system and things of that nature. In fact, I was still incredibly idealistic all the way up until coming here. And then reality set in, and then it set in some more, and then it set in on another level. And then I reached a point of my own gnosis or my own level to where I say, I will seek no more forever. You know, the whole saying of Chief Joseph, I will fight no more forever, right? I will seek no more forever for, you know, the community or the place or this and that. I will run no more forever. So I am here in a boring part of rural Colorado because I'm here to, you know, fulfill my soul's mission and cover this information and focus primarily on this and not worldly affairs. Because I'm a man and I have a physical body, and there's things embedded within our bodies that can distract us from the path of truth. You know this. And I've had to actually exercise discipline, strong discipline, to not chase things, people, places, things that I did in the past. And while there's no actual medal that we may actually receive in this world for what we turn away from, it is still for a purpose. And people will say to me that are much older than me as if they're wiser, why do you waste your time with these ideas? Why do you not chase earthly pleasures? And it's like I've had my time to chase earthly pleasures. Nearly 40, right? I'm at the half point. It's not so much a midlife crisis as it is a midlife awakening to the next level. And that's how this world is. Maybe there are men out there that are awakening to something when they're 30 and they're 40 and they're 50 and they're going, maybe my office space job sucks. Maybe I need gnosis, spirituality, a camp with the guys, get primal, tap into that. And then people around shaking their head going, you're having a midlife crisis. There could be like Hollywood movies that are poking fun at the midlife crisis, making comedy about it. Here's Multiplicity, a really bad movie with Michael Keaton. But it's like on a deeper level, to have the midlife awakening, right, is what we should have. There's a lot of people out there that are rewarded by good paying jobs. And it is when some people let those jobs dictate their reality that when they lose their jobs, they find themselves sick in some way. And this is the world of man. This is the world of woman, whatever the field. If people become super vain, a level, or self-centered in the search of materialism, then they can be entangling themselves with forces that can drain them. It doesn't mean they can't recover, but how can one recover from the forces that drain them unless they have that God shot, unless they have that awakening, unless they can see things as they are? Because until they see things as they are and that which drains them, society and the individual can only get sicker. To use an analogy, to hit bottom, right? Or to the point where people get sick and tired of being sick and tired on a energetic sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and conclude there, right? I think I said my piece. There's also additional information about the nature of Adam, the first human, and so much more. There are links down below if you would like to become a monthly supporter. I want to thank those people that signed up last week and the week before over at Patreon. Things are less scary than they were in the past, although I am still literally living financially on an edge. So a very special word of gratitude for those of you with faith in this content, for those of you that are actually getting something from it. And again, if there's something that you think would be perfect for this channel, as far as content and spiritual ideas, things of that nature, feel free to let me know. I'm Alex Hanser. Until next time, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within.